it's like for you to see your team play the way they did in your backyard?
It was. I mean, I don't want to say I expected us to play that well, but I know the work that these guys have put in, so I wasn't surprised that we had success. And I think we're continuing to grow as a team. So I'm excited that we're starting to see what we're capable of becoming actually play out in games. There were some questions about early, why aren't you just blowing teams out? And those things are not of concern of us. We're just concerned about the process we believe that it's going to take for us to ultimately play our best basketball once the calendar turns to January, and I think we're starting to make that progress towards that.
And Chris in particular, he's always playing the extra shots, and to see him be able to finally knock some shots down against Syracuse, what does that say about the work he's been putting in to do that?
Well, I think in some ways it helps validate our staff's belief that work wins, that ultimately you just trust what you're doing every day. You don't get discouraged by the results. You let your work dictate how things are going to play out long term. We certainly needed it, right? Playing against the zone, we need somebody to step up and make some shots. He kind of helped open up the game a little bit for us, gave us the opportunity to start driving it a little bit more. So just proud that we got multiple guys that can contribute in different ways and that they're all seem to be ready when their numbers are called.
What was that moment like for you when you stepped back in your high school gym, just reliving those memories?
I've been here. I have been there.
Uh-huh.
It's not like I hadn't been back since I left. But to be able to take a team that I was the head coach of was a different experience. I sometimes reference my playing days, not very often. I wonder if sometimes the guys don't necessarily believe that I actually played. But my name's on the wall, so there's some proof. I guess I could have staged that, but kind of validates that maybe coach knows a little bit about what he's talking about. And my high school coach being there and being able to kind of visit with our team, and my dad was there. Just a lot of people who believed in me and who support our program from afar. Being able to be there firsthand with those people was pretty special.
How fun was that getting involved in practice there than on the court you played on?
That was cool. I mean, for me, it's no different. I do the same thing here. I don't go up and down very often, so usually when you see me, it's in a half-court setting. I guess in some ways there's some nostalgia there, but I really wanted to focus on trying to prepare our team as best as possible, which was necessary.
You've been consistent about the process and not caring as much about the final score and what gets accomplished within the game, but at some point it's good for a team to see when they flex their muscles what they can do. So how much from a confidence standpoint did that 2 games in Brooklyn mean?
I hope it means that our guys continue to believe in what our coaches are telling them. And I told them after the game, the only thing that matters moving forward is that we don't change, is that we continue to work the same way, we continue to believe in each other. It's one of those probably most unique things that I've been around as a group of kids who truly enjoy each other's success. We try to preach that stuff, but it's hard for 18, 19-year-olds who, some of our freshmen came in expecting to be probably bigger parts from a production standpoint, and how that plays out early on in their career usually determines how their career goes, what they hear back home. We've had all of them play some. We've had some of them play more. Some of them have been pretty inconsistent in terms of production and playing time, but none of them have showed any kind of negative attitude, and they've been happy that whoever's playing well on a given night has had that success because it's about our team winning.
You said a lot about Isaac after both games, but I asked him about this as well, and he gave a great answer about just wanting to give what the team needs that night. He had 2 very different games, but very successful. One where he had to pick up a lot of scoring, and the other where he got to distribute the ball and watch everybody get into the act. Talk about how that's good for the team to see him do that.
Yeah, I mean, what he is probably a great example of a guy who's completely bought into. It's about winning. It's about putting our team in position to have success. And I don't know if we have who our best player is, right?
Yeah.
It's arguable, at minimum. We have leaders. We have older guys. We have some young, talented guys. But I think we have a bunch of guys who are bought into everybody from an individual standpoint, doing whatever the team needs to win. He does that because he can do so many of those things, right? It looks different for him from night to night. Some nights it is scoring, some nights it's being a lockdown defender. I thought his defense was tremendous in both games. And that's where it's got to start for us with him, because his energy, his size at his position can really be imposing for other teams' point guards. So I'm certainly glad I'm not trying to prepare to play against him, because it made me look at his game and I don't know what he does well, and then you got to compete against him, and he's a pit bull.
Jonathan mentioned how he's never played in a defense like this before. How have you seen him adjust to that?
It's really hard. It's the hardest of the adjustments for any of our newcomers. It's just understanding the level of effort, energy, emotion, talk that it takes for us to be good in our defense. It's hard to coach, to be perfectly honest. I'm not saying we're doing anything that anyone else isn't doing, but it takes every day being committed to demanding the level of effort that it's going to take to have success in the games. And I'm glad to see those numbers kind of bear themselves out. One interesting number I came upon this morning, teams are shooting a ton of threes against us, attempts, but they're making very few. I hope that continues. But it's interesting having a shot blocker in there, how some teams, maybe if they go in there and get a few shots blocked, you can defend the three-pointer a little bit better, but teams will still try to shoot him. So his adjustment is pretty typical in our system, but he's starting to get comfortable, as most of the guys are, with each other.
Growing up in Brooklyn, what's it going to be like coaching against Patrick Ewing?
Man, so my dad was a Georgetown fan, partly because of the influence that Coach Thompson had on just college basketball. And then Patrick Ewing gets drafted by the Knicks, and I think his fandom went to a whole nother height. And so I grew up watching him play. I mean, my first time watching an NBA game was at Madison Square Garden. We had nosebleed seats, probably somewhere up near the cameras, Sky Zone up there. And we got there early enough just so I could kind of at least get close to the floor to see how big those guys were. And he's like the biggest human being I've ever seen in my life when I was 7 or 8 years old. And there still haven't been many that's passed him, But it was pretty cool just to see how life kind of happens. I admire what he's done for the game, both as a player and as a coach, and he'll have Georgetown back competing for national championships really soon. I believe that.
You guys won't have a ton of time, but are you going to try to set a little bit of time aside to try to pick his brain a little bit?
I mean, I don't know. We don't have a great relationship. We've kind of met on the recruiting trail, different events. So I don't anticipate that happening now. Maybe something after the season when there's a little bit more kind of not a competitive environment.
Sure. Who was your favorite player growing up?
Wow. So I think my dad tells me it was John Starks.
Okay.
Which ironically, and I didn't know this at the time. I only knew him as number 3 for the Knicks.
Yeah.
He played here at Oklahoma State. I actually talked to him while I was in New York, was hoping he would come to the game because he still works for the organization. But I admired Michael Jordan a ton. I didn't like that he always beat the Knicks, but I think all of us were Jordan fans just because his talent. But I think Starks was my favorite guy.
What does that kind of say about just your journey? I mean, the first game you watched as a kid, Patrick Ewing was playing, and then now many years later, you're about to coach against him.
I just think it says more about life. You can't predict this thing as much as we try and hope. We're not in very much control of how this stuff happens, and I've been fortunate that I've been able to keep that perspective through a lot of different changes, and it's one thing I'll try hard not to change.
I know it's all basketball for you right now in terms of getting the team to the next game, but do you ever just take a step back and think about any of that?
I think about it in this sense. There's been a lot of people who've helped me, and I owe it to them to make sure that I do the best I can, and that's really where it ends.
Do you have to explain to these guys how good Patrick was?
Yeah, I mean, the game's so different now, especially. We don't really talk about him as much as just the generational differences in basketball. I'm still convinced that he could be a really good player in today's NBA. Some of our guys may think a 7-footer who couldn't shoot outside, probably not, and having to come out and guard Steph Curry at the 40-foot mark and all that stuff, might be a challenge for him, but man, he was really, really good when he played.
Do you remember him in Big Country going out in the NBA at all?
I don't. He talks about that, though. Him and Shaq, I've heard talk about matchups with Big Country, and I wish I had followed it closer at the time, but I certainly admire just their basketball talent.
Can you talk about how well Isaac Likely has played so far at the start of the year? Because he had a big game in Brooklyn against Ole Miss.
He's been terrific. He's a tremendous leader for us. You know, he brings a lot of different things to our team from a skill standpoint. But the best thing he does is the effort and competitiveness that he plays with every single day it's contagious, and it's helped our young guys a lot.
You guys got Hitty out there early in both games, kind of struggled a little bit against Syracuse, but what have you thought of his kind of gradual comeback?
Yeah, I was cautious with him a little bit. He didn't play a ton, but I wanted to see what he was capable of doing because he hadn't played at all. He felt good in practice, but he never really got comfortable in terms of just the flow of the game. So he'll be fine. He's got to continue to get better, gain more confidence in our system and just the consistency with he'll play. But it's all a work in progress for him.
It was just like 2 weeks or whatever it was, but how big of a difference can that make whenever a guy does miss that much time?
A lot. I mean, it's monumental. Not just from a just playing standpoint, just first conditioning, right? We try to keep him on the side doing stuff to be active, but getting out here and getting knocked around for 2 hours is totally different than standing over there. What Jake does is, I'm sure, hard, but running to a screen or having to get pushed around for a rebound or diving on the floor for a loose ball for 2 hours, and then just the confidence in the rhythm of your offensive game. You don't really feel good coming off screens or shooting shots. It's a skill game still, so those things require practice.
Another thing Jonathan had said is that he hadn't been in a team where the practices had consistently been this good. He just talked about how the practices have been so good. How do you feel like they compare this year to the other teams you've coached as far as the guys' energy and focus?
I don't remember what practice number it was, but it's not usual. I mean, it's not normal for a team to be consistently good in practice. Usually you get past the first week or so, and guys kind of lose interest in practicing just because they want to play, natural competitors. And I don't remember when it was, but I talked to you guys at some point. We're maybe 2 or 3 weeks into practice, and we hadn't had a bad one. I was actually trying to manufacture one because we needed some adversity. But these guys have been really, really good, and I think that's a sign of the maturity of our young guys, but also the leadership level of our older guys.
How good of a test do you think 4 games heading into conference play? I mean, nice little test here.
I mean, I don't know about 4 games. I know Wednesday we play a really good team that I watched go toe-to-toe with Duke at the Garden. They're Duke's second home, and they're probably more capable of winning. They're the most athletic, probably most talented team that we've played thus far. And so all of our focus has to be on trying to get ourselves as prepared as possible. And once that one's over, we'll figure out what the next one is.
This Big East challenge, you guys have done the SEC challenge. Is this a cool deal from you, especially being from New York?
Yeah, I mean, just because of familiarity with some of the teams, and obviously we'll travel to some of these places that I probably visited when I was younger, Seton Hall, Villanova. Some new teams in the league though, Butler and Creighton, so Xavier, that I haven't necessarily associated with the Big East when I was younger. So I think it's cool just because it gives us another quality opponent every other year at home. So along with the SEC challenge, we'll always have, in addition to the 9 conference teams coming in here, we'll have at least one other. We'll always try to schedule a couple more outside of the league.
They're coming off a loss to a good mid-major team. Do you think that kind of guarantees that you're going to get their best coming off that loss?
I have no idea. I always prepare my team to play against the best version of whoever's coming in here. It doesn't matter whether it's Georgetown or Roberts or UMKC. And I know the most important thing for us is that we got to focus on not what happened in New York, not what kind of feelings Georgetown is going to have in here, but we have to have a really good practice today and make sure that the guys follow the game plan that the coaches put together for them.
I was saying they're going to watch film today, but what have you seen from them so far?
They're really aggressive defensively. They're really long, athletic, deep. They play really hard. They press quite often. And they have a really good big. So they've got a combination, probably the most athletic backcourt that we faced in Akinjo and McClung. 2 guys who play above the rim at just over 6 feet tall. And, I mean, they're a really, really good team. So we have our hands full on Wednesday night.
What did you take in from life growing up in New York to lead you to having success this year?
I don't know if there's anything specific in life that has led to success this year. I'll say that, my life has presented me with a lot of learning opportunities. And the best thing that's happened to me is I've been surrounded with people who've been honest and genuine about their care for me. And I've been presented with a lot of opportunities where people have helped me. So my job now is to try to do the same thing for these kids in this program and for this university in general. I try as much as I can to get out and support different factions on campus because my job goes beyond what happens on the 30 nights that we get to play games. But it's certainly my main focus. So I don't know if there's anything specific in terms of success this year. We're 7 games in. There's a lot of games left. So if we don't win any more, it won't be success, right? We got to focus on today, trying to be as good as we can.
You mentioned in one of the videos they put out afterwards that now people are going to be talking about you guys.
Sure.
You're going to have to respond to that. You mentioned kind of manufacturing adversity earlier. Is this kind of one of those moments that you want to see what you guys do in this scenario?
Yeah, I mean, what I was trying to help them understand is it's not always motivated by negative circumstances, right? Sometimes positive circumstances can create noise that's irrelevant, right? The polls, the 7-0 start, those things are really, if we don't have a good practice today, it's kind of a waste. And so just trying to help our guys understand, don't get distracted. That's been kind of our motto the last couple of weeks is just focus on doing your job the best you can every day and be locked in on helping your teammates. And for the most part, they've done that. So I'm curious. We had a really good practice yesterday. If we can replicate that again today and tomorrow, then what happens on Wednesday will be a product of that. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.